Hey, what is up everyone? In this video, I want to talk about 10 underrated features in Sea of Thieves. On this channel, we often talk about things that either aren't going well in the game or things that they need to fix or whatever. But in this video, I really just want to appreciate some of the really cool things that we have in Sea of Thieves that maybe people don't really think about too much or care about like its impact in the game. Starting off at our number 10 spot, we have skeleton ships. So I think players might forget when the game first came out, when you were sailing, there wasn't much threat and it was kind of barren. You either saw other players or you got attacked by a megalodon or kraken. And even those weren't really like, you didn't see them while sailing. So the cool thing with skeleton ships getting added was it added something that could be just sailing around, minding its own business. You could be looking around into the horizon and you could see either a skeleton ship or a player ship. And it really helped make the just looking around on the horizon more interesting because oftentimes you'd see like a skeleton galleon or a skeleton sloop just sailing around, and if you wanted to go interact with it, you could. Or if you wanted to try to avoid it, you could also do that. So I think skeleton ships are definitely a big underrated feature that people kind of take for granted. At our number 9 spot, this one I don't know necessarily how underrated it is. I feel like a lot of players like the feature, but I think the thing that I think is underrated with it is its impact in the game and its legacy in the game. And this is the Fort of the Dam. So the Fort of the Dam has been added since pretty early on in the game's history. It was one of the, big original updates that we got in the game. And with the Fort of the Dam, it really created something that, like, if you saw it, you needed to go do it. We used to have that with skeleton forts. The Fort of Fortune had that for a little bit, but nothing's really stood the test of time. I think the Fort of Fortune's probably the other best thing that we've seen that has really drawn players in to do it. But other than that, there hasn't really been too much that has really made players want to go and participate in it. Stuff like the Skull of Siren Song, or even just like Reaper chests in general, were added to try to create that player engagement, but neither have had really that much effect as like a lasting legacy. Whereas with the Fort of the Dam, even to now, when I see someone doing the Fort of the Dam, we always go in for it and try to fight it, try to steal it, whatever. And it still has the allure of people wanting to do the Fort of the Dam. Unlike say like regular skeleton forts or even the Fort of Fortune, you still will find players that either want to just activate the Fort of the Dam and go through the steps of trying to complete it, or you have people that are willing to spend, however long to try to steal it. And it creates so many fun memories in the game, and that's the reason why I think it's an underrated feature. Not necessarily that players, don't really care about the Fort of the Dam. I think a lot of players do, but more so that I think it's underrated in the sense of how it's had such a great lasting legacy in the game as being a really great feature. Following that, at number 8, we have trade routes. So I feel like this is one of those, unlike the Fort of the Dam, is a cool addition in the game that I don't think many players either engage with or even know about. Trade routes were added back, I believe, in Season 2 of Sea of Thieves, and this basically allows you to go to different outposts in the Sea of Thieves, and as a Merchants Alliance, you can basically purchase these commodities, and you can see on like the trade index or whatever at every Merchants Alliance stand, it basically tells you, okay, at this location, they're really in need of this supply, or they have an excess of this supply. And based off that, you can either get really high yields of return for value, or really low yields, depending on what you're bringing. And you can basically make your own like kind of economy game with it by going to different outposts and kind of basically being a delivery service almost inside Sea of Thieves. And I think it's just a really cool feature that's a bit underrated. It's a really great way if you're working on your Merchants Alliance emissary, or you're doing a guild emissary or something and you want to try to level it up quickly. It's a really easy way to do it if you're already going in that direction. So I really like it. I don't use it as much. I think there might be ways that they could improve it in the future to make more players want to use it more. But other than that, I think it's just one of those cool underrated features that no one really talks about. Another feature that players don't really talk about too much, but I think it really impacts the game, is fog. So fog, I think, is a really cool thing that they added to the game, and it basically changes up either navigation or just, fights in general. It's a really great strategy if you're being chased by another ship. If you want to try to lose them, you can go into the fog if it's available, and you can really like use that to get away from someone. I've had such cool experiences where we'll be sailing and you really have to be paying attention and working good as a crew so that you're not hitting objects while sailing, or the really fun times when there's other ships in the fog with you and you're either like running into them and you don't see it until it's too late, so you basically crash into each other and stuff. And it just makes for a really spooky, eerie, exciting experience. And I don't think people really appreciate that too much. At our number 6 spot, we have distinctions. I think distinctions are a great way of letting us continue to progress inside the game. Because one of the problems before distinctions was you basically maxed out your level and then you were done. If you did anything else, say like if you maxed out gold hoarders at, where it was before at level 75, and you started turning in treasure after that point, there was no benefit. You weren't really getting any reputation for any of those trading companies after you had maxed out. What distinctions has allowed is an easy way for the game to let you keep progressing those trading companies past whatever the max level is. So it allows basically for your level to reset and continue to progress and still earn cool rewards like the rings that we got in season 11. Keeping with the whole trading company discussion, at number 5 we have Emissaries. So Emissaries are such a great feature, and I also think people really don't understand the point of Emissaries in the game, so let's talk about it a little bit. The whole idea with Emissaries is they're essentially basically meant to be a high risk for high reward situation. You choose to be an emissary and that puts you at more of a risk, but if you are successful at doing that, you get much more reward in return with up to a 2.5 multiplier on reputation and gold. So that's a really cool system that they have in place, and while it's kind of been messed up a bit with the season 11 diving mechanic because people are changing servers all the time, it used to be really great to be able to hop in the server, go to the different tables at the outpost and see how active is that server. You could go to, the Reaper's Bones table, the Gold Hoarder table, whatever, and see how many of the little ship models are on the table, and then okay, this server's pretty active, or no, this server's pretty dead, we should go find a new server to go play in if you want to go, sail around and, steal treasure, whatever. On the flip side, if you don't want to steal treasure and you wanted to actually go and, get your own treasure and stuff, it was also a great way to be able to determine, okay, if there's these players all doing their own voyages, then I should be safe going and doing a voyage here. But if you got in and you saw like a bunch of Reapers, then you might not feel as safe to be on that server and you might want to switch to a different one. So there was a lot of benefits with it. It also really helped solidify PvP in the game. Because before, if you really thought about it, before the Reaper's Bones were introduced with the Emissaries, PvP was still kind of like a jerk move in a sense. It wasn't legitimate inside the game. Because a lot of players, I think at the time, more thought of it as, oh, you should just go get your own treasure. Once the Reaper's Bones was added and the Emissaries were designed as a system of, hey, the threat and the risk of being an emissary is other players. So I think it really legitimized PvP in the game as well. But moving on to something a little bit smaller in impact, but really great and a bit underrated, I think, especially by newer players, is cooked food. So cooking food has a really cool mechanic tied to it. Not only can you just, go and get pigs or chickens or whatever, or fish while you're on your boat, and, just have that to sell or whatever, you can actually cook that food and get basically regen health that's stored inside of your, health bar for future use. This is really useful, especially when I've done situations where I'm trying to tuck and I'm having to swim long distances because what happens. You get attacked by sirens, you get attacked by sharks, whatever, and you don't want to use up all of your food. So that regen health is really helpful because it basically gives you extra health past the 5 pieces of food that you can hold on you at any time. It's a very useful mechanic, and I don't think a lot of players think about it too much anymore. Something a bit newer than the cooked food is burying. Burying is a really cool mechanic in my opinion, and I've talked about it in a previous video. Not sure if that came out before this video or not, but burying is a really nice feature, whether you talk about with it in terms of the quest board where you can basically put your own maps on for other people to discover and find your treasure that you've buried. You have like the role-playing aspects with that. But for me, I really just love burying as a mechanic for storing treasure for later use. As y'all have seen, either what I've just talked about in this video already, or in past videos where I like to do a lot of tucking. Especially tucking at, say, skeleton forts and stuff. So you can use the burying mechanic to basically steal treasure, go and tuck it somewhere on the island and bury it, and then come back and retrieve it later. Because prior to the burying mechanic being implemented, you could hide the treasure somewhere. You could go and put it behind a bush or a rock or something, and then come back and get it later. But the problem was, many times, if you were to sink someone at skeleton fort and they quit the game, the server would merge because there wasn't enough players in that server. So they would merge it with a different one, and sometimes in those cases you would lose all the treasure that you just stole, so it would basically become worthless at that point. What the burying mechanic does essentially is, when you're going back to get your ship, it keeps the treasure that you hid safe somewhere, and if the server merges, you don't have to worry because you'll still be able to access it. So it's really helped me personally when I'm doing tucking and other stuff to be able to make sure that I didn't just waste all my time trying to steal those treasure for it just to all disappear when the server merges. These last two spots are the biggest underrated features in my opinion, and the main reasons I wanted to make this video. At our number 2 spot, we have rowboats. Rowboats are such a fantastic addition to the game. Whether you have the different versions of the rowboat, whether it's the Harpoon one or the one with the cannon on it, all of these make really fun additions to the game. I really love just using it for, tucking purposes, whether it's me just kind of, sailing my rowboat away from my ship and sneaking up to another crew. It just unlocks so many possibilities for gameplay. There was one time that I was playing and we were being chased for like 2 hours. It was just after we had done a big steal and we had a ton of treasure on our ship, and we're like, crap, this galleon keeps chasing us and like we can't get rid of them, and we don't want to risk going back because we have like barely any supplies. So what we ended up doing was basically tricking them by going around a few rocks, making sure that we got enough distance between us and them, and then we just loaded up all of our treasure on the rowboat, and then I just took it away and rowed it to an outpost to sell all the treasure. So the rowboats really allow for unique gameplay that didn't really exist before. Y'all might have seen a video I uploaded last year where it was me with some others in a alliance, and we were going to steal the fort of the dam, and all of us were on the rowboat with our kegs, and we were all together, and it was just tons of fun. And we were using that as basically our little Trojan horse into the fort of the dam to go steal from the other crew that was doing it. And it just, like I said before, rowboats just unlock so much possibility and make for really fun moments in the game. Finally, at our number 1 spot is the Harpoon. The Harpoon is such a great tool added to our ships, whether it's just using it to pick up treasure or even pick up your own crewmates, or using it when you're trying to chase another ship and you harpoon yourself onto their ship and you start pulling yourself in. It's such a great tool because it gives so much capability to what your ship can do now. And I'm interested to see what they can do with it in the future. I think there's many possibilities for the Harpoon, but even just what we have now I think is amazing. You can even use it to make your ship do sharper turns, whether you want to harpoon yourself to a rock and kind of spin around it quickly. You harpoon on the ground if you're in shallow enough water, and you can harpoon that and do like a quick spin. It can be really helpful in battle. We've even used it to harpoon other players onto our ship, kill them, and then be able to basically attack their ship after we've just taken them out by basically kidnapping them with the harpoon. So it's another one just like the rowboat that adds so much functionality to the game and adds so many possibilities, probably possibilities that people haven't even thought of yet and haven't even come up yet. So I think it's a great thing, and they keep making it even better, like what we saw in Season 9 when they changed it so that you don't have to grab the treasure off the harpoon anymore. It just automatically, gets picked up by the harpoon and then gets plopped on your ship. Stuff like that makes it so that you're taking the harpoon and making it even better than it was before. So I'm excited to see what they do with that in the future, and even just all of the features that we talked about in this video. But that covers my top 10 underrated features in the game. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think is the most underrated feature that we have? If you enjoyed this video, it'd be great if you hit the like and subscribe, and check out this other video talking about another feature in the game that I think needs some love and improvement. But with all that said, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye y'all.